Let's move to step 2. We called it problem analysis with a committee. So under this step, you will have two activities. The first one is we call participatory learning, while the second one we call community investigation. The community investigation is an optional activity and is also included into this lecture. The main objective of this step is two. On one side, you want to create a strong committee, which is afterwards able and capable to implement all the activities you propose and then continue to work on waste management in the future. And on the second side, also you wish to have that this committee has a very good understanding of the waste situation in the village and also some awareness about the problems with waste in general. We propose the following agenda for the implementation of this activity. The first one is an ice-breaking activity, and you should take very much care of it because you want to have your group to work together in the future. So spend time on this activity. The second one is that you draw together with your committee a village map. The third one is that you make an awareness raising on waste in general. That includes waste segregation, the problems of plastic, of burning, throwing into the water. So this is the awareness raising section. From there, you try to create a waste flow diagram. So from where everything is coming, then how you consume it, and then how it is disposed. So in that way, your committee have an understanding waste is not falling from the sky, but there are activities done by them or by the community which create waste. After the waste flow diagram, you are then hopefully ready with your committee to work in the future. If you think there is additional work to be done, you can also include a community investigation. So in that way, you create some questions for the committee who are then going around meeting different stakeholders, tea shops, restaurants, households, community leaders, and ask them about their feeling about waste and how they propose to solve it. In that way, you could already include more members of the community to engage into the waste management system, but this is not needed necessarily. The participatory investigation should take you around 2 hours. Sometimes it can go up to 3, depends how detailed you want to go. You can conduct the activity in a meeting room, but also in a public space where there is enough space to gather. You should focus mainly as a stakeholder on the committee. However, when there are interested people who want to participate, or a CBO or the village leader, that is also fine. The materials, as you can see in the list, are quite many, so please check in the link below to see which one you can use or will fit into your context. There are many different ways to warm up a group or to break the ice, and it is best you rely on the local resources which are probably available for you. I want to focus on one activity which also has an educational value, and that is what you also see here in the background. So what we are doing is we have a number of cards and we are drawing, or there are pictures of different kinds of waste on these cards. And we ask the group to sort these cards depending on the kind of waste, in organic, in other inorganic, and what they normally know, which is recyclable and sellable. So then we give them these kind of 3 bins and they will sort the cards into these bins. If you are dividing your group into 2 smaller teams, you can make a challenge who is faster in sorting their cards into the bins. And afterwards you can see how many of these cards they have sorted in the right or in the wrong way. That is a pretty fun activity, and also your committee understands very well which kind of waste belongs to which kind of bin or should be segregated in which kind of way. The next step is to create a mutual understanding of the waste situation in the village. Normally this is done by drawing a village map. You can do this either on the paper and with a pen, or you can have some toys, either as you see here, which you brought along, but you can also use for sure sticks and stones to draw the village. So in here, in this map, you should clarify clearly where are the local dump sites, where waste is burned, where are maybe some pig farmers, where is more like, say, the commercial area where a lot of waste is generated. Maybe there is a place where the bus is stopping, and there are much more waste disposed at this place. So try through this map to have everyone to agree how the waste situation looks like. So when you use for sure tools, as you can see behind, you have more ways to move them around, so it is more participatory than actually using a piece of paper. However, the paper has the advantage that afterwards you can hang it up and you can add different scenarios, other points later. What we do when we are building the map with these toys, we normally then make pictures of them, and so most of the committees then they have it on their phone, and we have then this map in an electronic version. After you achieved a common understanding about the situation, you should conduct a short training on the impacts of waste. Talk about health, pollution, environmental destruction. Be clear also that you spend enough time on explaining the difference between organic and inorganic matter and why they have to be treated very differently. Remember that your community will mostly generate organic waste, and you don't want to build a system which finally brings leaves and branches to the dump site. If you have electricity, you can use a projector with slides. Otherwise, we use the backside of old vinyls and local designs drawn by hand. During this session, the most important thing is that you stay specific and context relevant. Don't talk about waste management in general, about landfilling or other concepts not relevant for the village. This is not a general lecture on solid waste, but a very specific consultation session to the committee so that they understand the challenges and local solutions. If you have already experience from other villages, use these as examples. Give enough time for members to share their experience and their understanding related to the issues you were raising. You can assume that the view of the problem shared by the committee resonates better with the rest of the community. So learn from them so that you can use this in the later awareness-raising trainings to the community. The next step is what we call a waste flow diagram. So the aim of this activity is that your committee has a pretty good understanding of the relation between consumption and waste disposal or environmental pollution. Waste is, as said before, is not just falling from the sky. There were decisions by the community made that this waste is actually generated through their consumption practice. So when you start this activity, start in the middle with a house. And then from there you will slowly develop with your committee on where consumables and how they are entering the household. So you maybe have them coming from shops, from markets, restaurants, gardens, whatsoever. And there are different items or materials which are entering the household and are consumed and then finally disposed. These might be a lot of plastic items like shopping bags and packaged food or styrofoam boxes, and also on the other side you probably have a lot of organic materials from the garden, and these can be from trees or from agricultural activities. So after they understand how consumption is influencing the generation of your waste, you move from there to then the different disposal practice of the different kinds of waste. So which kind of waste is basically just left on the ground and nothing is happening here, shown by this leaf? Which of this waste can be fed to animals? Which of this waste is composted? Which of this waste is transported from the house to another, maybe a landfill or somewhere else? Which of this waste is just dumped somewhere, and which of this waste is actually burned on the household level? And this is your primary disposal level. And then you move to the second one after it is transported either by a pushcart or the household itself need to transport it. You go to the second level, and that is either, again, the question is which of these waste is recycled, which can be thrown on the landfill and is landing on a landfill, which of these waste finally ends up burning, and which one is entering into the environment as leaked waste. So when you move with your committee through these different steps, you can hope that they have a better understanding of the relation between consumption on one side and the negative environmental impacts of this consumption. When you have enough time and your committee is very active, I can really recommend to make a community investigation. So this could work roughly like this. So you will divide your committee into smaller teams of 2 or 3 people. Then you will assign stakeholders to each of these teams. Everyone should at least visit a few households, some restaurants, shops, and maybe each team visit one of these more secondary stakeholders like the market, religious leader, hospital, schools, whatever there is. So, and then your teams will prepare questions for each of these stakeholders. You should have your teams not to prepare too many questions to the stakeholders and focus maybe around 4 main topics. The first one is the waste management method the stakeholder is using. So basically, how are they disposing the waste? The second one is around the interest level of the stakeholder in improving the waste. Do they want to change, or they think, oh, everything is good as it is and they don't see any problems? The third one is what kind of service request they have from the waste committee or any future waste management system. And the last part is in which way they are actually willing to contribute to the system. Are they willing to pay fees? Are they willing to give labor? So these are the questions which are relevant. Around 2 hours later, they should all come back to discuss the findings. And it helps a little bit to sort the answers in this kind of matrix, as you can see here. So you have on the left side the waste management, so how they are doing, the interest in improving the system, and then the service request and the contribution the stakeholder is willing to provide. And then on the horizontal line, you see you have then the different stakeholders itself, the household, the shop, restaurant, and others. So the easiest way to kind of then sort all the answers they have, you just provide sticky notes to the committee and or the teams, and they will then write the answers on these notes and then sort them on your big matrix and find out what are the general thinking perceptions of the community. This activity really can help to make your committee better understand the local waste situation. And on the other hand, it also helps for the community to know that there is really something happening on this topic. So when there is enough time, it is really a good activity. Let's look into some of the common challenges. The first one, which is very common sadly, is that your committee, either to a few members only show up or even no one shows up. And that way you have quite a decent problem. If you just have a smaller group than anticipated, just move forward with them. Another quite common challenge is that your committee is maybe there, but they are not very active, or the committee is also not very inclusive, so they maybe do not know a lot of what is happening in the village regarding waste. This also makes the activities much more complicated. As tips, I can suggest really spend a decent amount of time on the ice breaking. That will help you so much afterwards when you are going into more boring activities to keep the group active. So maybe even spend half an hour in the beginning on just fun, so that people are laughing, working together. In this time, you also can see a little bit the social dynamic of your group, who is a leader, who is willing to implement something. So you can have a look already in this ice-breaking activity. So how is the social dynamic of your group? The other tip I have is try to be as visual as possible during your awareness raising, but also during the mapping events or the waste flow. So people need to see. Don't expect from them that they have a high academic skill to absorb more general or information which comes from further away. So try to be as local and as visual as possible.